First place Jets? Maybe? Welcome in, everyone. Joined by, way too long, Dom C of Project Prospect. What's up, dude?
Hey, how are you, man? You're right. You know what? I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, man, Kevin and I haven't been together to get in the weeds and chop it up for a while, man. Long overdue.
Dano will be happy because he always requests it, and I'm like, it's tough. Like, no, I don't think any of us besides like maybe Jay Gasman is this our full time job, so
Yeah.
it's hard. It's hard, but good. I don't think we've actually chopped it up since the season has started. So
Yeah.
how is it? Like your expectations versus reality? How's it going through 5 games?
Yeah. Listen, let's start with the pink elephant in the room. I'm happy that, like we were talking about off air, like, the Jets showed some gumption here. They made a grown up decision. Timing's questionable, but it's something that needed to be done. And I think, I'll give you the flowers and the credit. I think you said it. I don't know if it was in one of your streams or in a chat or something like that. You just said, listen, Robert Saleh is not going to be the guy that's going to take us to the promised land. He's just not it, So whether or not there was questions about that leading up to the season from our front office and ownership, and they just wanted to see if 4 plays of Aaron Rodgers was going to make the difference, but at least they made a grown-up decision and decided to, before this got way out of hand and beyond repair. Like, let's make a move. Let's change it up. Let's put a different spark, put a different energy in the room, and go from there. Listen, there's no denying that. Who knows how the rest of the season is going to play out, but the expectations I have with this change is that they're going to come out with a little bit more energy. They're going to be a little bit more disciplined, and hopefully they're not going to, be outscored like, 200-40 like they have in the first quarters under the Robert Saleh, regime. So,
yeah, I can't look. I bet you the approval rating of the Saleh firing has gone up amongst Jet fans since Hackett got bumped down too, because I feel like that was the gripe. I don't think anybody was necessarily falling on the sword for Saleh. It was more of, hey, the offense is really bad, and like Hackett, and Keith Carter get to keep their jobs. At least that's what I saw a lot of.
Yeah, and I get that. However, listen, if you're gonna make a move, like the Jets have already had those like preliminary fall on the sword kind of moves. When they canned LaFleur and they tried to bring in somebody over Nate Hackett in the offseason, but Arthur Smith told us to go kick rocks, and Eric Bieniemy told us to go kick rocks. So I think that you cut off the head of the snake, right? And you're not going to come in, and you're not going to you can't week 5 into the season come in and not only fire the head coach but eliminate the entire offensive staff. That's just not feasible with 12 with 12 games and a playoff viable roster. That's just not going to happen. So you mitigate, right? You put a new head honcho in there, and he comes in and he makes again another big boy decision and say Martini Nate, make it light and sweet. Light and sweet with a coffee roll, please. Now listen, and that's and I know everyone's gonna say, well, Todd Downing this and Todd Downing that. You're right. Like, Todd Downing might be the biggest sack of shit out there as well, but he doesn't. It's not gonna smell as bad as a Nate Hackett offense.
No, it's. I mean, Ulbrich to Saleh, we'll see. We'll see how the energy is. But I agree with you, head of the snake. And people are using the word scapegoat. I'm like, no, a scapegoat by definition is like when you cut or fire or blame like a lower level person to cover for the higher ups, like some fall guy at a company that gets like arrested for the top guys embezzling, whatever. When you fire the head coach, that is not a scapegoat, unless you're scapegoating Joe Douglas or Woody Johnson or maybe Aaron Rodgers, because those are the only three people who could be possibly higher ahead of him in the power structure. So, yeah, man, I think, and then the media chiming in is that like, dude, I don't want to be the person who just rips the guy who's not here because I think Saleh is a good dude. By definition, Robert Saleh was a loser in the NFL as a head coach. He had won nothing. He was 19-36, and most coaches after 3 years of no playoffs, whether it's by Zach Wilson or Tim Boyle or however else it comes, it's not always fair. You get fired. Like seven of those, there were 7 coaches hired in that cycle. 5 of them have been fired. Nick Sirianni went to a Super Bowl. He's on the hot seat. I'm like, what the? I understand the point of view of like it doesn't change everything, it doesn't fix everything, but anyone criticizing like firing Robert Saleh, like all of a sudden we lost, like prime Bill Belichick or Don Shula, like Bill Walsh. We lost a defensive coordinator, and just like all the other guys, oftentimes when we cut or lose a guy and we mope and whatever about it, the league speaks on it, and when the league speaks on Robert Saleh next season, he will not be a head coach because they have all the context. They have all the context. They have all that information, and plus more than we do. And he will not be a head coach. If there's a prop bet on that, I will take it. So
he'll land on his feet. Probably
the number one defensive coordinator available out, right?
Listen, absolutely. If you're a GM or if you're an ownership, and I'm just going to use an example. I'll make this up. Okay, just say Philly moves on from Nick Sirianni, right? And they want a new mind and they want a new voice. Like, wouldn't you want to take one of these guys, Bobby Slowick or Ben Johnson, Clint Kubiak, and pair him up with Aaron Rodgers? Isn't that like Aaron Rodgers? Pair him up with Robert Saleh. Like, all right, this is going to be your head coach, and guess what? I'm bringing in the best defensive coordinator to handle that side of the ball. I mean, that to me is very, very enticing, and I think if he chooses to get back into coaching next year, that's where he's going to fall. He's going to, he's going to probably have he's going to have options if he chooses to get back into coaching, and there's going to be plenty of teams lining up for his services as a defensive coordinator. The reality is that maybe someday he'll be a head coach again. And maybe he'll learn from his, from these 4 years that he had, 3+ years, 3+ years that he had here, and maybe he'll be a better coach for it. But right here, right now, I think that this was the move because you realize that the welcome had kind of soured, and like the mottos and the calmness and the bravado just wasn't going to. The only thing that was going to happen was a bigger fracture in the locker room if it kept going. Nothing changes, right?
If nothing changes, nothing changes. I like that. I think Theo Vaughn told me that once. Smart guy. Yeah, man. And dude, even if it gives you, and people will say, well, this does nothing. And I told you, like, before we started, people say, well, this changes nothing. It's like, well, then you probably shouldn't have a head coach who, when they leave, changes nothing. I mean, if you and I, like, I mean, I don't think we're time person of the year, but if you or I were to depart our households and just go join the circus, the people behind would be worse off, I would say. So if it changes nothing, then okay, then you probably weren't that much of a leader. A defense, whatever. I mean, I've made my
he outkicked the coverage a little bit. Like, he kind of leveled up probably a level too high too early, and maybe his comfort zone is that defense coordinator with the option at some point to maybe be a head coach. And listen, maybe not. Maybe he'll just be a damn good defense coordinator, like Steve Spagnuolo, had two bites of the apple as a head coach, didn't work out well, and found his comfort zone and is one of the premier defensive coordinators in the league. So
yeah, no shame in that. He'll make a bunch of money doing it.
Absolutely.
So we got the Jets are playing for first place. I am strangely confident about this game. Now, I felt pretty confident about Minnesota, but I don't think that confidence was unjustified because people were talking about we were going into Minnesota like we were about to face the 2007 Patriots.
Yeah.
And Sam Darnold looked mid. Justin Jefferson didn't do much. Aaron Jones was hurt, and the Jets pretty much gave that game away.
Yeah.
So I think that this will probably be. I mean, I know the Bills were favored early, but now looking at that injury report, it's probably going to be shaved down to a pick'em. Khalil Shakir, James Cook, and Ed Oliver, all not at practice. Now I know you and I both subscribe to. I could give a shit about beating a team at their best because, good Lord, like when are we ever at our best? And
Yeah.
nobody ever gave the Zach Wilson, Tim Boyle wins back to us. I didn't get a postcard in the mail saying those counted less. So F that, man. I hope all those three gentlemen take a long road to recovery and do
That's
not
right.
play.
That's right. I'm not. There's no shame in the game, man. Like wins are wins. There's no asterisks in the win column, right? You played. You didn't face Buffalo with James Cook and Ed Oliver. That's hey, wins are wins. So I'm not. I'm with you, man. The less firepower, the better, right? We need all the help we can get, and I think that from a high level, I think you can expect a little boost in energy and a little extra juice just because of the head coaching change that usually happens. There's usually an uptick in efficiency and productivity and effort and stuff like that. Guys want to show that the season's not over. The guys want to support their new coach, and I don't think it's without being in the locker room ones that drive. I think it's pretty suffice to say that all these guys really love and respect Coach Brick, so I think they'll want to play that much harder for him. So you can expect an uptick, at least early on. And man, it couldn't have come at a better time, when we're facing Buffalo, a good team, and they happen to be down a few 4 or 5 players. So.
Yeah, that's why I agree with the coaching changes. Like, well, why don't you give him until, you're playing for first place? It's like that's why. Because if you lose this game, like, I'm not gonna say it's a must win because if you beat Pittsburgh, you're 3-4, and you're probably right in there with the schleps of the AFC. But it is a very pivotal game. Like if you probably look at like the betting markets of the winner of the AFC East based on this game will shift dramatically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I agree, man. Listen, if there's any team that has Josh Allen's number, and there's not many of them, the Jets have always done a good job against Josh Allen. They figured out, a method to his madness. It hasn't always worked out in wins. Like, whenever it seems like we play in Buffalo, he has a much better game than when he comes to Jet Life. But yeah, let's see. I'm ready. I'm ready for Monday night. I'm ready to bring it. I think that this year, especially, I think the field is kind of leveled out a bit. I don't think Buffalo, whether it be their 53-man roster or whether it be the injuries that they're facing or whatnot, I don't think they're the peak Buffalo and the dangerous Buffalo Bills that they have been in the past couple of years. So timing is good.
I agree. I think the Bills, they're a team that has they're very volatile. Like when they're on their A game and they're like pouring it on, like their A game is as good as anybody's in the NFL. Mm-hmm. But of all the contending teams, they shit the bed like no other. They go through stretches where it's like, holy crap, this team is not good. Like Josh Allen looks like the best quarterback in the NFL for a month, and then it's like, oh my gosh, he's like single-handedly losing them a couple of games. And Allen, he hasn't thrown a pick yet, but his turnover worthy, it's not for lack of trying because I'm checking those turnover worthy throw percentage, and he's throwing them up for grabs or not catching them. So you gotta make him pay if he puts it on the turf or if he throws your turnover. But without Shakir, and not only Shakir and Cook is he their best skill weapons, those are guys that really would match up well against us, especially with Shakir with no Michael Carter. Just like short area quickness guy that just like a pesky guy who knows going to pick up those third downs, and then Cook, who we don't have a good run defense right now, and he's a 5-yard per carry monster. And if he could figure out how to catch and not fumble, he'd probably be like fucking LaDainian Tomlinson. Like the guy is so, obviously a little bit exaggeration, but the guy is really talented, but he has those hands problems. So those two guys out of it, and now it's like, okay, Mac Hollins and Keon Coleman winning on the outside versus Sauce and DJ Reed. Like I'll take my freaking chances. Right?
Yeah, and if you look at the first 5 games for Buffalo, you take Jacksonville out of the equation because Jacksonville, pretty much are lining me and you up at cornerback. Yeah. The teams that, kind of lined up in cover 1 and pressed up against these wide receivers, as talented as they are in their own sense, struggle against man coverage. They struggle to separate. We knew that coming in with guys like Keon Coleman. Like if you remember through that
they were denying that. I'm like,
Yeah.
guys, this is it's not a debate. He can't separate.
Yeah, through that draft cycle, I mean, that was the biggest knock on him. And Mac Hollins is just a taller, skinnier, less athletic Keon Coleman, right? That's exactly what he is. Now, and then without Shakir in the mix, who's not that. Shakir is kind of the anti Keon Coleman, but you take him out of the equation, right? I mean, who else? Is Curtis Samuel coming back? I mean, he's been pretty much Casper the Ghost so far this season in the games that he's played.
Kincaid would probably be their best passing weapon if Shakir
who's also
they don't use him up the seam though. He's like a screen merchant.
Marquez Valdez-Scantling, is he going to get deep on you? Maybe. I mean, he's fast enough to. But yeah, like you said, I mean, I don't think it's goes without saying that James Cook is by far Josh Allen's best weapon. And if there's a possibility that he's not on the field, Ray Davis is a nice player, but I don't think he's really developed the same skill set or doesn't offer the same fear that James Cook could in this offense. So I like that matchup. Like I said, Josh Allen. There's been good Josh Allen and kind of so Josh Allen so far this year. And the good Josh Allen is just taking what the defense has given him and not pressing and staying composed and just, methodically moving up the field. When they've been good, that's exactly what he's done. And then when there's a little bit of strain or he feels that he's got to press a little bit, he's forcing these balls into, like stone hands receivers that are just not getting open for him. Like they've lived and died. And this is Joe Brady, man. Joe Brady, wants to run the ball first. And now we've taken away their best running option. So can Ty Johnson and Ray Davis pick up the slack of James Cook? I mean, hopefully not, but it looks like we're going to see.
I think that this is the most vulnerable their defense has been too. And especially if you look at if Ed Oliver doesn't play, Von Miller's suspended. So now Rousseau would be the only pass rusher that you fear. And he's he's like Jermaine Johnson, good, but it's not like, oh my God, here comes TJ Watt. So and I think they miss Floyd. That was a significant loss. He had 10 sacks for them last year. So now it's Epinesa and Rousseau on the edge. And
they got Javon Solomon, a rookie in there who's nice, but he's still young and he's a rookie. And, he's kind of one note, he can get at the pass. He can get at the passer. Very similar to, and maybe this is a strong comparison. I'm not comparing them, prime Brees Hall or Bryce Huff, but when he came in, he could affect the game versus the pass, a good situational pass rusher. That's what they got in Solomon also. So they've done a lot. Yeah, exactly. They've done a lot. They've done a lot of stuff, with playing the stunts in the games up front. That's what their defense is bred, kind of built around. I don't know if Terrell Bernard, their middle linebacker, is going to be playing. He's been injured. Still don't know about Teron Johnson. I think that he's been practicing this week, and this could be his first game back since week 1. So yeah, I mean, listen, they got the linebackers aren't anything special. Braylon Spector and I don't even know who the other guys, who else is, or Dorian Williams. They're nice players, but nothing to write home about. I mean, they're definitely missing Matt Milano. This is an opportunity that we can get right. And on top of it, if you look at our offense, Kev, our offense needs to get our running game going. And the Buffalo Bills right now, I think, are 20, based on PFF, are the 26th overall rush defense. I mean, they're getting gassed just, nearly as bad as the Jets' 30th ranked rush defense.
Yeah, this is the game, and this is the game where Brees and Super Chat by Joe says, is Joe Douglas still on the team?
Good question.
It seemed like the Jets made a concerted effort to remove his name from the coaching change, which I get the coaching change, but I would appreciate it if Woody Johnson, dude, just let because that's what he always says. He always says, "I'm going to leave all the football decisions to the GM," and he never, because he fired MLF too. So we just have to accept that when he's never gonna keep that boundary, Woody.
Yeah, and listen, this is leading to, come January, you're going to see I just think, I think it's inevitable. I don't know if it's right or wrong. I'm not there yet, but I think it's inevitable that come January, we're going to see the mutual parting of ways between the Jets and Joe Douglas.
Really?
I do. This whole firing where he's been completely, in the dark, like kind of unseen. The fact that no GM really ever goes into a lame duck season, right? And the fact that they've gotten rid of now the head coach, the guy that he was tied most closely with. There's a chance. And again, this is just me hypothesizing here. There's a chance that maybe they approach Joe Douglas about an extension, and maybe he said, I want to see how things play out, and things aren't playing out that way. So this might be the swan song for Joe Douglas, because if the season goes south or doesn't go, to an extended playoff thing, and they move on from Ulbrich as well, it's a perfect opportunity to clean, wipe the whiteboard clean and start fresh with a GM head coach combo.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess I hadn't really thought about that, because he wouldn't have to be fired. It would just, like, the team would have to want to bring him back, and he would have to come back.
Correct.
It did sound like Woody Johnson gave a pretty significant endorsement when he said that this is like the best, most talented team I've had in 25 years. Seemed like a tip of the cap to JD, but yeah, maybe JD is waiting on seeing if he wants to work for Woody just as much as the other way around.
Yeah. Yeah. And listen, if the Mike LaFleur was Woody meddling, and then Robert Saleh was Woody meddling, could you blame Joe Douglas if he said, nah, you know what, let's just ride this contract out, and I'll join the LA Chargers with the rest of my old Baltimore Raven brethren, or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think we all can agree that Woody Johnson isn't the best owner to be employed by.
Yeah,
but it is what it is. Yeah, well, we'll be interested to see how that would go. That would be, oh my God, could you imagine the state of Jet fans if JD says no thank you and it leaves?
It wouldn't be. Listen, it wouldn't like completely. I wouldn't be floored. Like I think it's probably more so likely than not likely that that's the case. That they're just riding this out, and then they're gonna have a clean break come January.
Yeah, I do think if the team manages to have some success, like let's say they win one playoff game, I think then maybe that could be motivation for for people to be back. But yeah, I guess if it goes the other way, then all bets are kind of off.
Yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't happen that way. I don't know. I think if JD, Ulbrich, and Rodgers are all back next year, then that probably means something good happened.
Yeah. Listen, I think it's going to take something really good to happen to bring this, coaching staff and Joe Douglas back together. You're probably talking, what, AFC Championship game? Strong run. I don't know. Does a 9-8 team that squeaks in with the 7th seed and loses in the first round?
No.
Do you bring these guys back? I don't know.
No, that's just like basically like missing the playoffs to me, honestly. I'd like to break the drought, but it depends too with Ulbrich. Like, you kind of have to see how it goes. I talked about this with Matt O'Leary earlier in the week, where it's like, if we win like the way that we've been winning, and it still looks like solid football, and like that happens to get us into the playoffs, and we upset some team, and then you lose in the second round, but you're like, a lot of the same issues persisted, but your defense just got hot and Rodgers made some throws. Like, I think you kind of have to see how it goes. I don't think I would want to sign up to keep living the way we've been living offensively. Now, obviously, you could get a new offensive staff, but who knows? I think Ulbrich it's going to be a tall task for what he has to accomplish to run it back.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. Well, listen, we're facing the 3rd ranked run offense against our 30th ranked run defense. Missing their best running back. Monday is going to be an opportunity for us to kind of, seize the day and set everything that this week has brought all of us Jets fans and the people at One Jets Drive kind of a little solace. This is a very, very winnable game. It's a very, very winnable game.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. And I think, this is the game for Breece Hall because, Lord, if he can't break out this game, then guys, and that's the biggest. I was talking to one of my buddies who's a Bills fan, and he's like, "Oh, do you feel like you overrated the Jets?" And I'm like, "Dude, I'm sorry. I watched Breece Hall for 2 years and thought that was what we were gonna get because that is, I mean, if you have like what we know Breece Hall to be at his best, like that changes your entire offense. And yes, guys, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. Offensive line, run blocking not good, tight end blocking atrocious. Breece Hall is not the same as he was last year. There's a 4th-round rookie on this same team who is light and day running the ball more efficient than Breece Hall, and that was supposed to be like there's supposed to be like weeks where you could just. This is the Breece Hall week. He's going to go win us this game against Buffalo. He's going to touch the ball 28 times. And now it's like, what the F is that? Because Rodgers being a little, okay, maybe he's more washed than we thought. Maybe we didn't understand the true full ineptitude of the coaching, even though we knew they weren't good. Mm-hmm. Some things like that. You miss JJ. But man, Breece, like that is just, we're a different team if he's playing like himself.
Yeah, and I think that Breece Hall is going to be the biggest beneficiary of the offensive kind of juggling from Hackett to Downing. I mean, because listen, we can talk about the how bad the tight end blocking has been and how inefficient the offensive line run blocking has been, but I mean a lot of it is predicated on how predictable it is when we're going to run the ball. Teams are just run blitzing the hell, and you can play a power gap scheme, you can play a zone blocking scheme when you have more guys that are coming over, up to and over the line of scrimmage than you have there to block. It's going to cause issues, and I think that's causing a lot. Breece Hall hasn't been decisive, but he hasn't.
Can you address this comment for me, Dom? Because I could not disagree more. It's on the same topic.
Breece Hall is the same. Blame Keith Carter and the scheme mismatches for lack of productivity. It's kind of counterintuitive to what I was just saying. Like a lot of it, I don't know, man. I don't know if Breece Hall's been the same. I think a lot of it has to do with predictability and the fact that teams are just run blitzing the hell out of us. It's hard to run when you have 7 guys coming and 5 guys and Jeremy Ruckert, who's 5.5, blocking, 5.5 blocking 7. There's always going to be a mismatch. Again, think about the gap scheme concept. You're saying, hey, the ball is going here to the A gap between the center and the guard. That's where it is. There's not a lot of wiggle room or decisiveness as if in the outside zone where the ball is going left and you're going to wait and you're going to develop and then you're going to plant and get vertical. The plays are designed to go here, and if here is stuffed up with a blitzing linebacker that isn't picked up because there's a 1 tech and a 3 tech that are both crashing in, and that takes your center and guard, like that it's just going to it's going to clog a lot of issues. So Breece Hall hasn't been the same. I think some of this is true. I think some of it falls on Hackett's just ineptitude and predictability. And I think that's where Downing can really come in, and both of my fingers are crossed here, that he can kind of change that, right? You tie that in with the fact that it's, like we haven't been able to establish a real running game because we're always in a negative play script, so you're always having to throw the ball to get back. You blink an eye and you're down 17 in Minnesota. Denver was just an atrocity. We couldn't get anything going. It's just, in San Francisco is the same thing. Like you couldn't get anything established because you're constantly chasing points. So I think if you get in front, you're able to establish a little bit of a lead and you get them thinking. I think it's just going to open. They're not knowing when the defense knows exactly what's coming. It's hard to execute a play. If you know that if the defense knows this is happening, this is coming right here, it's hard. You're going to have everyone is going to have to play and block it perfect for it for it to make ground. You know what I mean? And that's just not reality, right? So there has to be a little bit more. I don't know. You got to figure out a little bit more creativeness or ingenuity or something to kind of keep Buffalo at on their heels a little bit. Like, and if they're over aggressive, just like Minnesota was and Denver was, in rundowns, then then Downing better use their aggressiveness against them. Throw some screen passes, get the ball, get the ball out in space, get Breece Hall out in space a little bit, throw a swing pass or something like that. God forbid. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean Keith Carter. I mean, I think he might be the worst coach we have on the staff. So I mean, I'm not gonna argue there. It's obviously bad. But Hackett and Carter were here last year with worse offensive linemen. Like Breece is still in a vacuum. Breece is still not the same. There's no way, because then that means that Braylon Allen is the greatest running back of all time. Because if Braylon Allen is twice as efficient as the same Breece, who was fourth in scrimmage yards last year, then Braylon Allen is like prime Adrian Peterson. I think that's a little unrealistic. Yeah, he's just not moving the same. There's no doubt about it.
And I wonder if that little nagging injury that he had in the summer is kind of causing any of that, or maybe it's just the mental. Like, you get hit enough in the backfield and you see no space whatsoever. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's just been a comedy of errors that seems to be like a black cloud that follows the New York Jets offense, right? I mean, for 3 years, we said if we just had a competent quarterback play, well, you bring in one of the best all time, and the offense is mimicking a Zach Wilson, Trevor Siemian led offense. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. Billy says, please stop starting Olu at right tackle. He's not a right tackle.
Yeah, listen, Olu, you're right in the sense that he's not a right tackle, and Olu's game is predicated against finesse more than power. So I hear you. I didn't realize how big of a loss Morgan Moses was going to be for us on that offensive line. And again, I'm not here to say that Olu's played bad. I think Olu's played like a 21-year-old rookie, who's has 3 games of experience. But he's not Morgan Moses. Morgan Moses, he's a nasty, tough son of a bitch, and they go like having him and AVT on that right side really, really helps and means something. Like they, those two together, they can make things work. And I think that's, I'm hoping to God that he plays. I'm hoping to God that he's somewhat healthy, because I think that's going to be a big spark against this, rather porous Buffalo run defense.
Yeah, he was huge in the run games, the nasty to the offensive line. Olu, I mean, that's what a lot of teams do that with their first, especially if it's a guy who's not penciled in to be a starter. They're going to play their rookies as swing tackles. I mean, guys, it's not like they're moving them to guard. I mean, was it like, would Carter, Warren, or Max Mitchell have done better? Probably not. Would they have done much worse? Maybe not. But it's like if it's even close, you're gonna play your premium asset and get him the reps. So I think he probably didn't. It's not like he did any worse than a veteran swing tackle would really do. So
Correct.
It's not really that big of a deal. My opinion, I don't think it's gonna make him regress, or even like the stuff with AVT, like it gets him hurt. It's like, I don't know, man. Like other teams do it all the time. They move guys all around the offensive line. I think he'll probably be. I think he would do better at left tackle, probably.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I agree. And listen, speaking of left tackle, I'd argue that Tyron Smith might be the worst. Through 5 games, I think he's probably been the biggest liability, especially in in pass protection. And that's not expected. And again, that's listen, maybe there's a reason why Dallas didn't bring him back. He's 36 years old, however old he is. This might be the best Tyron Smith that you get, where he's going to have, glimpses and flashes of dominance, but, the body, the age in the body's catching up to him.
Yeah, I think he's 33, which isn't crazy
33.
old for offensive tackles, but he has a lot of injuries. Yeah, he looks he looks like a pair of Levi's out there. I mean, I don't know, like, compared to his prime self.
Yes.
Definitely a big drop off. Now he's probably better than like the corpse of Dwayne Brown and Mekhi Becton we had last year, but he's getting beat. And there's just like Brees, like we can have two things can be true again. Like the entire offensive line is more talented than they've been able to show because our coaching and our schemes suck. But like Nick Bonito just blowing by Tyron Smith untouched one-on-one isn't on Keith Carter. Like it just isn't. And you have to kind of ask yourself like, whoa, we got Tyron Smith. Nobody wanted him. That's crazy. And you like think, wait a minute. Oh.
That's why. That's
and
why.
look, he's on a pay-as-you-go contracts and a 1-year deal. So, okay, you make the bet, hoping you can squeeze one more year of elite play out of him. And right now, he's like looking like probably honestly like a below-average starting left tackle right now, like mid to below average.
Yeah. And listen, he's gonna have plays, and like I said, there's flashes of the old Tyron Smith, but it's not nearly as consistent at the level of the old Tyron Smith.
Yeah.
But you tie that in with some of the other missed assignments and bad arrangements from the other 4 offensive linemen, and the whole unit looks to be as if it's playing a lot worse than they probably really are.
Yeah, because Simpson has been kind of what we thought. Like, he had some strong games, he's had some lapses, but still better than Lakin, and he's not making much money at all, so that's fine. Moses has been fine. ABT's been getting better week to week as he gets healthy.
Tippmann's hotter. Yeah, hot and cold. He hasn't been great the past couple games. He hasn't been terrible, but listen, there's been a little bit of a dip in his production, and I don't know if it's just the sum of the parts. You know what I mean? That it's everything's been kind of a step down in that offensive line. But like I said, if there's a get right game, it's crazy to say that this is the game, this is the week to see it. Especially without Ed Oliver. So if they can
especially without Brendan Bates, man, that's what we need to especially do. The 3 tight ends, man. This team has been trying to run like heavy tight end sets since Salah's been here, and they just can't have the dudes to do it. Remember they were doing it with like Tyler Croft and oh god, who was the other guy? Trevon Wesco. Like they were trying to do it then. And who was the holdover who had that one good year and then we re-signed him?
Fred Baxter. That too old?
No. He had like a nickname, even though he wasn't gonna have to have it. It was like Sticky Hand something.
I don't remember.
Who was that tight end Joe Douglas brought back because he had one good year? The chat will let us know. I'm not gonna be able to function until it wasn't Wesco. It was a different guy. It's like a white dude. Oh my god. No, not Yeboah. But yeah, tell me about this. I'm gonna go look that up. But you tell me about this 13 personnel and
listen, I think the biggest correction that we can make to fix our woes of the tight ends blocking is to just play more 11 personnel. And listen, you go get Devontae Adams, and now you have a nice threesome, if you will, between him and Garrett and a combination of Lazard and or Mike Williams and
Ryan Griffin. That's who it was.
So yeah, I think that's one of the changes that you're going to see. That would be nice to see. I don't know if it happens this week. But yeah, I mean, I think this is a Nania stat, but I think that they are, 32 out of 32 in, positive plays when 12 personnel or heavier. I mean, it's been bad, and it's crazy because Uline Ruckert up as a fullback, and he's running downhill and kicking out on a tight end, and he looks like William Refrigerator Perry back there. You put him in at tight end or at on the wing to kick out, and he looks like Helen Keller. I just don't get it. I just don't get it with him, man. I don't get it with him.
Yeah, he's very inconsistent. Like he'll have some really nice pancakes, and then he's got again, the tight ends and like obviously the offensive line is the crux of your running game, but the tight ends, the one-on-one whiffs are just like there was that whole clip of Rucker and Bates just completely matador, like making run plays almost impossible the past
Yeah.
couple of weeks. Like Ruckert is, I think I'm gonna just say it that Ruckert is like kind of a figment of our imagination. I'm sorry, like I know it's a cool story. His dad's a cool guy. He's
Yeah.
living his dream. He's getting to play for the Jets. He'll be in the league. He's a rosterable player, but I think there was a thought coming into this year, like, oh, Tyler Conklin's in the last year of his contract. Could Ruckert be like the Jets tight end 1 in 2025? And like, there's just no way. There's just no way.
Well, I think that was the plan when he was drafted, 90 or 89th or 90th overall in the third round, was that, hey, tight end's a tough position. You got to learn, he's hasn't been playing it too long. And, this is the pipeline piece to set ourselves up for when Tyler Conklin's contract is done. And guess what? Tyler Conklin's contract is done, I believe, after this year. And it looks like you're going to have to completely reset the positional group.
Yeah, because it's not like Conklin is a guy that you absolutely have to pay to bring back at 30 years old either. You know? So that's going to be, it could be like 3 new names, honestly, in the tight end room next year.
It could be. All right, listen,
Ruckert will be on the team. Ruckert will be on the team.
Yeah.
It's a rookie deal, but.
Yeah, I mean, I never thought that I'd be so excited to see Kenny Yeboah come off the pup.
Dude.
That's the state, and the guys that were, as we talk about like the putridness of our tight end group, like I think it just makes like the pants get tight for all the Bowers boys, right? Saying, "Oh man, if we only, I get it, but
yeah, I mean, there's like any draft, there's a lot of good options. I mean, we could say the same thing about Brian Thomas Jr. Like, who thought he was going to look better than Roma Dunze, right? So it's just kind of how it goes. Yeah, that was just kind of a polarizing topic because I felt like there was like offensive line, weapon, like okay, and then it was like Bowers, which I mean, you guys know I would have loved if we drafted Brad Bowers. Now, I'll never apologize for it. People will still like say, Ole Fashanu was the right choice. It was the smart and dignified choice. As like Brock Bowers is pulling Minshew balls out of the sky and like trucking for 65-yard touchdowns against a team we scored 9 points against. They're watching like that. Pay no mind. Ole was a dignified class. It's like, all right, calm down. You would have loved Brock Bowers too. It's fine. You can admit it. You could take the lap. You would have loved Brock Bowers. But at the end of the day, remember, like we did the same thing with JSN and Will McDonald last year. And if you just wait 1 year, all of a sudden that player you didn't need, who another player could have made a bigger impact. Now Will McDonald, we'd be effed without him. If you put JSN on this team and took away Will McDonald, we'd be so much worse just because of the depth at each position. He's our only good edge rusher right now. So
yeah, and that's a way to look at it.
With all
that's a way to look at it also from a very high level. Is that okay for this year? Now this is the other argument that Jets fans love to make. This is all in year. You can't worry about anything else. But here right now, like yes, to an extent. All right, until this year's over. And then guess what? If it was Brock Bowers here instead of Olu Fashanu, you now have to replace 2 tackles as opposed to 1. And call me crazy, but I think left tackle is of more prominent importance than tight end. You can get away with Tyler Conklin and Ruckert, if you have viable tackles. I don't, Brock Bowers and whatever 2 hack tackles you want to put in there, Max Mitchell and Dwayne Brown, probably ain't gonna get it done. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, and look, it goes either way. I think imagine if like Smith went down and whoever Carter Warren was in there getting his ass beat. We took my whole thing was that I thought, and we just got the statute of limitations on this is up. It's October. I just thought that the gentleman from Georgia was just such a different prospect. Like almost
Yeah.
calling him a tight end was like kind of silly. People are like, Hackett wouldn't know how to use him. You have to scheme him open. Like, no, here it is. That little flat pass you throw to Jeremy Rucker and he gets tackled by the turf monster. No, Brock Bowers cribs that shit. That's the best part about it. He's idiot proof. That's what like Devontae Adams. Brock Bowers idiot proofs your offense. You freaking dump it off to him and he rages for it. But whatever, it is what it is. And look, you know what the ironic part too is like, if they did what we all said, please don't do, and took like Jared Verse would go a long way on this team right now, man. He really would. He'd be a starter. He'd be starting across the Will McDonald. So you just never know how it's going to go even within a couple months, it changes how we look at the draft. So you got to just go by your board. Olu would have been a top 15 pick. The Saints wanted to come up to 11. I can almost promise you that's who they wanted. They wanted to take Olu at 11, I bet.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. They won't tell you that, and they'll say that, Fuaga was their guy, but they were rolling the dice hardcore on Fuaga being able to handle left tackle. You know what I mean? Like, I was one, and a lot of other people want to think you too were, Kev. Like, you pictured Fuaga as much better guard in the NFL than tackle.
He just moved guardy to me. That's my prospect speed. Yeah. That's my terminology. He moved guardy to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
How's your guy Latham doing? Is he looking good?
Real good.
Nice.
I think he's probably arguably the best. Hang on 1 second. Arguably the best
rookie tackle. Well, Joe, I know Joe Altus, but isn't Alt hurt? I think.
Yes, he is.
Now. But I know he was looking really good when he jumped in.
Wow. Sorry, I just got a text that just kind of threw me off for a minute.
Oh, you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Was it from Nate Hackett?
Yeah. It was we should have drafted Bowers. That's exactly what the text said.
Yeah, we should. Hey, maybe we could try playing Malachi Corley to fix that.
How about that?
That yak itch that we're lacking right now. Because I get it. He's a developmental prospect, but it's like, dude, and it's not the end of the world because our receivers truly aren't that bad at all. But they would have taken, if they had a second round pick, they would have taken him in the second round. Right. So the idea that you have an offense that's struggling to make plays. So the fact that he like isn't dressing, I'm like, it just feels like, and I think it's the cumulative of Jet fans, like these wide receivers and skill position players seem like they take so long to develop offensively. When you have Leonard Taylor who rips through a double team for a sack, because of course he plays defense for us and he's at UDFA. So he's like looking like Aaron Donald, but Malachi Corley is like behind Xavier Gibson on the depth chart. It just seems like so on par for this offensive and defensive split we've seen past few years.
Yeah, and I don't know if, like, I'm hoping that the new offensive scheme and the new head coach they will inject some life into some of the personnel decisions, because I don't know about you, does it seem that Saleh had a penchant to kind of guys get into the doghouse and really struggle to get out of it? Right? Like, you could tell from the get-go, even though he played, you can tell that Mekhi Becton was not a Robert Saleh was not a fan of Mekhi Becton. You know what I mean?
Mekhi Becton tweeted some stuff out after Saleh was fired.
Yeah, and you could tell that, Mims was like got in the doghouse and couldn't get out.
Lazard was last year.
Yeah. So is this the same thing that's happening with Corley now? Is Corley just, even with his little, like, cute little comments, well, there's other guys that are better than him on the depth chart. He's got to beat the guys ahead of him. Like, come on, dude. Fucking Xavier Gibson. You're telling me that you feel more comfortable lining up Xavier Gibson as in the slot more so than a guy you traded up to get in the third round?
And you can't. And wasn't Saleh one that texted him the text message that was leaked? That was like Corley no matter what.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing, dude. You're not, and he can't even play. Like, it makes you look like you don't know how to evaluate players. Like, and they're bragging like, we got our fourth receiver off in the draft, and it's like, dude, that's not. If he was your fourth-rated receiver, that's not good. Like, that's not good. That means because nobody, Brian Thomas Jr. He was better than Brian Thomas Jr. and Rome Odunze. He had to be better than one of those two by their logic. So it's like, dude, all right, if you're gonna do all that PR and let those text messages, maybe you don't do that. You know what? Maybe we could start to do things like this. Maybe if you have a text message that says nothing but Corley no matter what, wait until he has like a huge breakout game and then leak that as like a cool celebration. But Corley no matter what, and then he doesn't even dress in week 5. Like, you just look stupid.
Yeah. Well, listen, if him not dressing for 1 week isn't the be all end all, and that you can't stamp bust on his forehead
No,
like the
of
scarlet
course
letter,
not.
because Will McDonald had the same thing last year, right? So maybe this is a spark we need to get Malachi Corley involved. Maybe Todd or Todd Downing can figure out a way to get a ball in a playmaker's hand in space and let him do his magic. Who knows, man?
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. He wasn't good in preseason. He had a very quiet summer, but it's like, I don't know. So then somebody's got to be either the GM, maybe a little, or the coaching staff. So one of those things, right? If he's not playing, it's kind of a reflection on them, at least if it happens the whole year. Do I think Salah will be hired by a division rival to spill the beans? No.
Not this year. Not this year.
No, he couldn't. I mean, there will be jobs up for grabs. Maybe in Miami, they might have a whole new coaching staff. So we'll see if he wants to go there. But he'll have a lot of opportunities because he does have teams that hire a first-time head coach like to have coordinators who have been head coaches before, even if they haven't been successful head coaches. Like him having experience as a head coach will boost his resume as a coordinator. So he'll be probably the number one in demand defensive coordinator. And maybe if Miami has an opening, maybe he'll take it.
Yeah, no, I don't think you'll see him this year. Like he's collecting $5 million. I'm sure he's taken his wife and his 13 kids, somewhere to the South Pacific to chill out for a couple months, kind of re-energize and refocus and wipe off the ick of the past 3.5 years and this stuff. So I don't expect to hear Robert Saleh being bantered about or spilling the beans on the Jets this year. Next year is a whole nother story.
Yeah, and like, let's be honest, it's not like, what is he gonna say? Like, guys, when it's third down, they might run cover one. Oh shit! Like, hey, you might want to double team Quinnen Williams. It's like, oh my god, thank God.
Hey, they got 13 personnel and Garrett Williams and Irv Charles is out wide.
Yeah,
My guess is they're gonna run. Watch
out for Brendan Bates.
Yeah, it's 4th and 2, and Irv Charles is the only wide receiver on the field. They might run.
Yeah, that was the part about the 4th and 2 is they took Garrett off the fild. So it's like,
yeah, Irv Charles was split out wide.
Did he actually? Oh, you're not exaggerating.
I am not exaggerating.
Oh my god! This is why we have new coaches, man. That's crazy.
It was Irv Charles and all 3 of the tight ends, and Braylon Allen in the pistol, 8 yards back. We all know that, and yeah.
That's a war crime, man. That's
I when I saw that formation, I talking to my wife. I said, they're going to try to draw them off sides. They're going to take a timeout, draw them off sides or something like that. And nope, they didn't. They went for it. And
yeah, I thought they were going to just take the 5 yards and give Morstead some more room. I didn't think they were going to snap that ball either.
Yeah.
But they did. It's crazy that I still like this team. I still think the Jets absolutely can make the playoffs. Like, that's what's weird. It's like you typically think like a coach firing. And yes, I've recalibrated my expectations. I think the beginning of the year, my win prediction was 11. And now the 9.5 from Vegas is looking pretty good. I'd say around there. Well, that definitely could be good enough. And the division, Miami doesn't have a quarterback. The Patriots are nothing, and the Bills will find out Monday night, right?
Yeah, I really don't think, and I'm not saying this with green goggles on, like 11's still not out of the picture. They'll have to have a lot that goes right, but I think it's suffice to say, after this week, they might have played they definitely played probably 5 of the 6 toughest defenses that they're going to play all year, right? Because Tennessee is a good defense. Denver's a lot better than what we thought they were defensively, right?
Yeah, they were great.
Yeah, San Francisco. Minnesota has been playing lights out. They're good defense, and and then you had New England sprinkle in there. So you take Pittsburgh out of the equation. They're going to be a good defense next week, and then you got the likes of like the Rams, the Cardinals, the Seahawks, who they got more holes than a fucking pincushion on their defense. Jacksonville, You got a
Indy.
bunch. Indy, exactly. New England again. We haven't seen Miami, but
Miami twice. Their defense.
Yeah,
is bad.
their defense is bad. So I don't think that 11 wins is out of the equation. Although I'm not willing to bet my mortgage on it. I don't think it's out of the equation. Like I said, you'll have to have some things really go right with this new marriage between Aaron Rodgers and Todd Downing. But if there's anything to take of it positively, it's that the on paper schedule seems to really, really break our way.
Yeah, you'd have to beat Buffalo if the 11 wins is still on the menu. You're not going to go from 2-4 to that seems like too big of a climb. But if they beat Buffalo, then yeah, like the perception of our team changes. That's why it's always like if you think about it, after San Fran, it was like, oh my God, season's over. We suck. We're all over it. Then we beat the Patriots. We're 2-1, and it's like I'm not scared of the Chiefs. I'm like it's right there. I did a tweet after when we were 2-1. I did a tweet and I said, how many teams in the AFC do you think are like definitely better than the Jets? And the most common answer was like, definitely better. None are definitely better. And then 2 weeks later, your coach is fired. Now it's like, but I'm not letting the pendulum swing too far the other way because you beat Buffalo, and then all of a sudden, like, go again. If you are totally out on the Jets, go look at the AFC standings and just look team by team, and you'll see like Jacksonville, trash. Cleveland, trash. I think we're better than the Colts. I think like the Chargers are the definition of mid. The Bengals have Joe Burrow playing lights out, but they're 1-4. The Dolphins, bad. The Patriots, bad. The Titans, we saw them. They were bad. I mean, that's a lot of bad teams in this conference, man.
Well, if you just look, forget about the conference. If you just look at the rest of the schedule, all right. So what are we, 2-3 now?
Yeah.
So to get to 11 games, you'd have to go 9-3. Is that what it is?
Give me the names, Dom, and I'll tell you if we're winning or losing. Come on.
All right. So you got Buffalo twice.
Split.
Is it fair to say you split?
Yes.
Okay. I think the only other two games where you can say definitely or not definitely, but it doesn't. It's going to be tough. Is Pittsburgh, because we're playing in Pittsburgh. Their offense doesn't scare me, but their defense does. All right, and that game's in Pittsburgh, so it's going to be it's going
to be like a Denver game. So we discussed.
It's a real coin flip. That's a real coin flip. Like if we lost that one, I would not be surprised. And then Houston, because Houston's got firepower, and granted, we really really had their number last year. Like we played them. That was probably, I thought, our best game of the season last year.
Yeah.
Then outside of that, you're at New England. I'm going to say that's a win. You're at Arizona. All right. I'm going to say that's a win. I think we're a better team than Arizona. You got Indianapolis and Seattle at home. I think we're going to beat Indianapolis. Seattle's a good team. I don't know if they're great. I mean, I think their 3-0 start was smoke and mirrors. But and then you got Miami twice. You got the Rams and you got Jacksonville. Like you may be able to scrape 9 wins out of that. Again, you're going to have a lot of things go right. You're going to have to stay healthy. Listen, it's a long shot, but it's not completely out of the equation here. I mean that wholeheartedly. You got the talent on the team to do it. It's just a matter of this change in the coaching staff and ideas and these guys buy in to make the engine start going.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of variance in the record because I think there's going to be a lot of close games. I think until further notice, I think our offense the floor is too low, and it's been like not good enough to where I don't think we're capable of like blowing a lot of teams out because I don't think we're able to really score enough points. But on the flip side, our defense is going to keep us in every game. So I think like Kyler Murray running around, like I think all those games in the NFC West could be close. Yeah. I think where I'm looking at is split with the Buffalo Bills, and then you have 2 games against Miami and 1 game against New England. Those 3 remaining division games, win 2 of those. Win 2 of those 3. And that gets you to 4 division wins, and you're probably, I mean, it's hard though because it's like I would have said that about the Titans, and I would have said that about the Broncos, and so I think a win. Really, I'm looking at the next 2 games because you split them, and we're still teetering, you sweep them, and now like the perception of the team is completely changed for the better. And if you lose both, your season's over. So really, the next two games are going to tell us a lot about what this team is made of.
Yep, I agree. I agree about that.
The Jets aren't as good as you think they are. Well, of course, we're Jet fans. I know that I know this about myself. Every season, it's amazing too, because I picked them to win 11 games this year. Now they look like maybe a 9.5 win team, probably maybe around there. I know that I overestimate the Jets win total by 1.5 games ish on average every year. I know that about myself, so it's built in. We're fans, we're not analysts. But I will say, Daniel, Dolphins are also suck, and they will be hiring a new coach and GM next year. And it's a big part of it is quarterback injuries, which we went through last year, which is unfortunate. But I also think you definitely overrated the Dolphins for sure. Yeah, not looking so good.
Yeah, I'm still pretty confident that I think we have a strong enough team to get to 10 wins. I think 10 wins could really push the division, to be honest with you.
And also, like, I thought Hassan Reddick was going to be here. Like, I thought Jermaine Johnson, like those two, you have your two starting edge players, right? So it's like that's a significant, like Hassan Reddick would have definitely been a nice thing to have. He's definitely has like some Antonio Brown level. Like he can't be all right in the head for this to be making this decision. Like you're almost worried about like his mental state, because it's just a sane person doesn't do this.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. And listen, it just doesn't get, like, you hear, and I know it's said with emotion, which is fair, and I get it. But you say, oh, I don't even care about Hassan Reddick. Cut him. No, don't cut him. Let him sit in purgatory and let it toll over to next year. And then maybe you can, maybe once all the dust settles, you can trade him and get something for him instead of just getting absolutely nothing, even if he never steps foot and plays it down for the Jets. So I think cutting him is not an option. Just let him sit there. He's not counting towards a cap, or very limited towards a cap, whatever the veteran minimum is to keep him on the, restricted list. Let him sit there and let him take his medicine, because if he doesn't show up by week 11, I think his salary tolls. And if he shows up at week 11, hey, maybe you get 7 games from him, and and what you get from him, And then if he signs somewhere else, maybe you get a comp pick. You get a comp pick in 2026 of a 5th or 6th round pick. At least it kind of somewhat offsets the 3rd rounder that you might lose.
I think that was the idea when they brought him in.
Absolutely, 100%.
You look at the pick they traded away being in 2026, and that's when the comp pick would come in. So I was thinking, you know what, we'll trade a 3rd round pick for him, and we'll get a 4th round pick back.
Yeah,
is the way I kind of looked at that trade when it went down. Yeah,
and people don't realize that is the win now philosophy. Right? We're going to get everything we can win now. Maybe the cost is we're going to give up a 2nd or 3rd, but we're going to get a 4th back, and that's going to kind of offset, and that's worth, getting what the production that we can get from him right now.
Which, if he had showed up, I think would have been a pretty good bet. Like,
yeah,
I mean, he probably would have given you not Will McDonald level. Let's be realistic, but but man, Will McDonald, he's got some gift sacks, brother. That dude has 3 sacks. Let's be honest. But he's putting it together. He's looking like a pretty good player. They won't. Only way they would cut him is, I think, if they did trade for Adams, and they realized like they wouldn't be able to fit both of their money under this year, and then they just said, "All right, goodbye."
Yeah, but you can with one swift move of Quinnen Williams.
Well, if it's Woody wants to pony up the cash, like they can make the cap work. Does Woody want to have the 2 salaries? I don't know.
Yeah.
Hopefully, because that would be freaking awesome. Did you put Hassan Reddick? You put Hassan Reddick and Devontae Adams on this team. It's a game changer on both sides of the ball. Truly, it really
yeah.
Is.
Well, and what Hassan Reddick are we getting? We're getting a disgruntled, 29, soon to be 30-year-old veteran who hasn't had a camp and won't have played in 10 weeks in the NFL. So
yeah, you don't know what he would exactly look like. But then the risk of that too is if Reddick injures himself, doesn't his contract become
guaranteed?
Guaranteed? Does he have an injury protection?
I'm don't know the specifics of his contract.
Because what if he shows up like and then says, "Oh, my hamstring hurts," and then tries to basically steal game checks from you? Like, I wonder how that would go down. It'd probably end up being like litigated. It's just a nightmare. Hopefully it doesn't come to that. But guys, check out Dom C's channel as well. He is streaming it on his channel. The link is in the description of this one, so pop over and sub the Dom C channel as well. Final thoughts, Jets. Let me get you this, Dom. Score prediction: Jets Bills.
I think the Jets win. I think, like I said, I think the energy is going to be up. I think they're going to want to, kind of put all this white noise. I think they're going to lock arms, like Ulbricht's little catchphrase was. We've gone from all gas and no brakes to lock arms. It's everyone versus us. But I think that works for this week. It also helps that, like I said, we're facing a really decimated Buffalo Bills team. I think that. I'm curious to see if Ulbrich kind of changes things up a little bit because, this is screaming a game that you could just man up across, man up on the wide receivers and bring some extra guys and do what you can to force Josh Allen into making his plays. And I think the Jets come out and figure it out and win 21-15.
Okay. So yeah, the line is the Bills minus 2.5. So the Jets are going to be 2.5 point home dogs. Yeah, I do like the Jets in this one, and I'm gonna be completely honest. The injury report from Buffalo is heavily influencing that. Without their two best skill weapons, like I think Shakir, Oliver, and Cook are like so important to that team. They might be each worth a point, and then maybe like 1 point of Ulbrich boost. So I like the Jets. I'll say 20-17, but they could go. I would be surprised if either one of these teams blew each other out. I think it's going to come down to the nitty gritty, and I just don't know if Josh Allen can survive against the Jets defense without those top guys. And I think he's going to give us a couple. So hopefully Aaron Rodgers bounces back and we get this win. But ladies and gentlemen, subscribe to Dom C. Hit the like on your way out. You guys are the best. Go Jets.